Chelsea 1, Arsenal 1. A Pedro Neto banger gets us a point and actually moves us up to third. Somehow after this tricky run, and the fact that we haven't been overly pleased with some of the results within that run, we do go up to third. So we can't complain there. But there are a few things we can take from that game, and I think a few things that Maresca definitely needs to learn from, because I'll be honest with you guys, and I'm sure a lot of you felt the same when you saw the starting lineup. I don't get not playing Cucurella and Reece when they're available. I know people say manage Reece's moments. He didn't even play midweek. And like last week, he played at left back. You could have played maybe Cucurella in that and Gusto in that one, because today's a harder game than Man United away, obviously. I didn't really get that. And Gusto today missed a sitter. Pedro Neto, brilliant. Had Ben White doing all sorts. He had him doing the splits. Puts in a brilliant cross to the back post. Gusto has to score, and we know Reece is scoring there. We know he is. We know that to be the case. That's what's frustrating. And also the goal that we let in. Look, I'll get to who's mainly at fault, and you will be shocked to know who's at fault for Chelsea's goal, because it's never the case. But anyway, I did think Gusto had a role in that, because Martinelli's his man. Why was he that free? That said, he might as well have been on the byline. How is he scoring it as near post? Well, that's Bob Sanchez things. We know Bob Sanchez is rubbish. We know he's pants. That's what he does. So obviously the goal is atrocious from a Bob Sanchez point of view. But in Chelsea's performance in general, there are a number of really good performances that I do want to touch on. Again, Moises Caicedo proving exactly why he's the best of the 100 million midfielders. And in the absence of Rodri in the Premier League, he's the best midfielder. He really is. I thought first half in particular, he was just excellent. He was absolutely excellent. Even the intangible aspects, in terms of, I like that little shove he did in the second half. There's a little bit more grit to some of Caicedo's game that we're seeing more develop, as well as how good he is technically, as well as how tenacious he is in getting the ball back. He's a wicked player. And Marc Cucurella, we were asking him to start last week. This week, he doesn't play Reece, but he plays Cucurella, and Cucurella, wow, what a job. You know, going into this game, everyone's talking about what's Palmer going to do, or what's Saka going to do for either side. The two teams, you know, star players, right? They didn't do anything. Neither of them did anything, if I'm honest. Palmer had a shot in the first 5 minutes. It was a disappointing performance. And, you know, there's a couple of passes he did, but nothing was really coming off. It kind of epitomised Palmer's performance today, the 2 free kicks he had. It just didn't really get going. Never really got going. I don't think many of our attackers did, other than Pedro Neto. But anyway, Cucurella on Saka, locked. Checked his pockets as he comes off the pitch. It's Bukayo Saka. He's come limping out of his pockets. That's where he was hiding. I did not see him. We did not see that guy. Cucurella did a wicked job. Yeah, him and Caicedo and Neto were Chelsea's best players today. Pedro Neto should have set up a goal and then scores an absolute banger. But what's more fascinating about that goal, I think, and another thing we can take from this game, as well as the fact that please just play Reece and Cucurella. I don't know why we're not. We know they're our best fullbacks. I want to see a Chelsea with those two playing. I want to see it. I feel like we haven't seen it, especially with Cole Palmer. I'd like to know that, actually. Have Chelsea started an 11 with Cucurella, Reece James and Cole Palmer? I don't think we have. We certainly haven't with like Lavia and Caicedo. But that's what brings me on to my point. That goal was forced from an Enzo Fernandez pass. And Enzo Fernandez, when he came on, was excellent. Now, I've been someone that's been defensive of Enzo Fernandez, because I see the quality in the player. I know particularly the first 6 to 7 months we had him, how good a player he is. And I know that he's had a big dip in form. And obviously maybe there's some external factors that have influenced that. Obviously we've read a lot about what's going on, not just in the summer, but in terms of, you know, his family life. Like, those kind of things can affect you as a person, right? We're all human. We're not that brain dead that we don't understand that kind of thing can throw you off your game, regardless of whether it's playing actual football or, you know, whether it's life itself. Like, we know those kind of things can be an influence on you, and maybe it was. Maybe those kind of things have been having a bit of an influence, and that's why his form's dipped, and that acclimatization to the league has sort of stagnated. But he had a really good cameo, and he highlighted something that I actually brought up last week on Matisse's stream. We'll be chatting about this game later on there, so make sure to head over there. I think at 8 or 8:30. Either way, this will be out roughly when we're streaming. You'll see. But I brought up last week that, as much as I like Lavia, and I think he brings an extra bit of sturdiness when we have the pivot of Caicedo and Lavia, the midfield is more solid, and we've been quite defensively susceptible at times, particularly in the past year, and we still are, in general, as like a defence, as a keeper, as everything. The midfield is more solid with those two there. But that said, the midfield creates less. As a team, we create less with Lavia and Caicedo as a pivot, as opposed to Enzo Fernandez on the pitch. Enzo Fernandez has not a similar brain to Palmer, but they have that kind of... I mean, look, what epitomises Cole Palmer, right, is that there was one free kick from like 45 yards, he just tries to shoot. Because his brain is wired to just think, how do we get this in the goal as quickly as possible? Or as effectively as possible. Now, Enzo Fernandez, when he plays a pass, it's less safe than Lavia, but he's very forward thinking. There is an optimism that we can create a chance more so with Enzo Fernandez on the ball than like a Lavia, just in general. And that's not to knock Lavia; they're very different players, but it does bring a different impetus about Chelsea. And the goal came about because of that. And there was a couple of balls he tried over the top that I think Raya came and swept up quite well, but he was trying to make things happen, and he did make things happen with that goal. It's a great strike from Neto, and I kind of wondered actually if, based on Palmer shooting from like 30 yards early doors, the free kick after from about 45 yards, Neto scoring from outside the box. And we've seen Raya in the past. I remember when Brentford played Fulham, he got caught out with a free kick. If that was something we'd kind of worked on, or something that was suggested to maybe take shots from range today, ask those kind of questions. Because we didn't ask loads of other questions. Like I said, I didn't think our attack was at all had their best day. Jackson won a couple fouls. Noni, again, did not do enough for me. I think, look, I didn't think Mudryk had the best cameo in the world, put it that way, but Noni, since Forest, I think since Wolves, Forest has been his only real good game. I think you're looking at, when Sancho's back fit and available, he could be starting with Neto on the right. I think Mudryk could be getting a turn. Like, I don't think Noni's doing enough at the moment. He's not taking his man on enough. And that's frustrating because we know he can do better, which is why it's so frustrating. We know he can be a good player. But yeah, I don't think he's delivering. Jackson, like I said, won a couple fouls, and Cole just wasn't coming together. Those free kicks weren't coming off, whatever. Yeah, it was frustrating. It wasn't the worst performance in the world at all, in general. Like, we somewhat limited them, don't get me wrong. The first half... Oh, yeah, let's talk about this. Havertz giving it a shush. Fuck him. Fuck Kai Havertz. Genuinely. What a knobhead. What a knobhead. He still can't time his runs. Happily offside, as he was so often in his years at the Bridge. And he continued to do the same, and he was giving it shush, and it didn't even count. What a mug. What a mug. The thing is, I cannot understand that. This is like I'm saying F him now, right? I didn't mind Havertz when he was here. I was patient with Havertz, as a lot of fans were. No one, Havertz had a song about him. People actually did back him while he was stinking up the pitch a lot of the time because of what happened in the Champions League. And now this guy wants to get all loud when he's at team we don't win fuck all. We win absolutely zero. Now he wants to get all loud. About what? What are you getting loud about? You're shit, mate. You're doing nothing. You're doing nothing any different. Like, he's the same player as he was with us. There's no difference with Havertz. Havertz was like an all right player, turned up in quite a few big games for us. Kind of the same at Arsenal. Like, I don't think Arsenal fans are sat there being like, yeah, everything is perfect with our striker. If they could be signing a big striker, they will be after one. This is, yeah. Anyway, yeah, hilarious. Giving it shush, and it doesn't even count. Like, at least you got to make sure you time your run. Just watch the line. Yeah, either way, our goal conceded, poor in terms of not watching the line. I mean, Colwell was the only one to not step up. But if you're not going to do that, then you kind of got to mark your men. That's where Gusto, I think, he has to be picking up Martinelli a bit there. But Bob Sanchez, he sucks. He sucks. I didn't even think he was, well, he had some passes that were shocking during the game, but I expect them from Bob Sanchez. And to be honest, I expect us to concede a goal and it be mainly Bob Sanchez's fault anyway. Like, this is a regular occurrence. This is a weekly occurrence. I can't keep hitting that nail on the head any longer. Like, the guy is just not very good. He's not a good keeper. There's nothing really more to say about that. Like, a guy is on the byline and manages to squeeze it in, and I'm not surprised. And no one's surprised. Chelsea fans, you're not surprised. Who at home sat there watching that is surprised? Like, genuinely. Come on, like, how many times can I call that out? But yeah, I'm glad because there was a response there, and we did get at least a point, which takes us up to third. And, that's after we've gone Liverpool away, United away, Newcastle, Arsenal. We've played those games and we're still in and around the conversation we want to be a part of. Now, obviously, expectations change throughout the season, and we know in some of those games we could have performed better, myself included. That's what I think, because I think of this team highly, and I actually think of Maresca highly. So there has been some frustrations there that it could be more, absolutely. But when I see people being maybe a bit overly critical, that I know at the start of the season, unlike myself, I had us fourth for this because I saw this coming in terms of this team was very much gelling last season. They were kicking on, they were going to get better, and I backed Maresca to be a bit better than Potter and Poch, I suppose, at least, I'd hope. And I think that seems to be the case, right? As much as I have my frustrations, like I said, Maresca with this fullback stuff, pack it in, mate. Pack it in. I like Gusto. I thought last season was great. I think he's been struggling this season. I think you play Cucurella and Reece. They're the best and they're available. Either way, people are getting overly critical now in terms of performance, where we're third in the league, when they had a 7th or 8th, or whatever it was, or thinking everything's doomed. You don't get a say. You don't get you need to be. They should be more buzzing than the people that did think Chelsea would be fourth. They should be sat there being ridiculously buzzing at Chelsea being third because they didn't. They all thought this was going to be some mess of a season, and it's not a mess of a season. This is roughly where I thought it would be, but there's a couple of games where I'm actually disappointed with it, genuinely. So yeah, I kind of think Chelsea are where we are. Where we are, like we're not as good as Liverpool. We haven't got the experience that a Liverpool side have. I'm just frustrated because I look at Chelsea and I think, yeah, okay, you can. I know people like to pick holes in Fofana, who I actually think had a good performance today. I actually think he had a very good performance today. I mean, Kai Havertz, he was giving it all shush. He walked off with Chris Benoit injuries. Like, I don't know, I don't know what more you can ask for in that regard. But it's just the keeper for me. Like, I look at that Chelsea team. Do I think some of the attackers could have delivered more in these bigger games? Yeah. Cole is that guy, and he can deliver, and he hasn't really in these games. He's had a couple moments and flashes. That's it. We want more of that. Like, as in, we want more of the level we know he can show on an even more regular basis. We see it on a regular basis. Let's see it on every single stage, and that will come. That will come anyway. I mean, we've even seen it. We've seen it last season. We've seen it in the Euros. Like, we know what the guy's capable of. So it's not a worry in that regard, but it's frustrating because we know we can have even more. And likewise with Jackson. Likewise with Noni. These are guys that we know can deliver even more. So we have to maintain those standards. We've set those standards, or those players themselves have set their standards by their performances, and that has to carry through. So there's frustrations there, but we're seeing a lot of good players at Chelsea at the moment. We genuinely are. Like, that's what's so nice about this, because it has been a tough couple of years as a Chelsea fan. It's not get the fucking violins out in the Champions League like 3 years ago. I get it. But, like, there was a lot of turmoil and us losing our owner, losing Roman. And then everything that's followed suit has been pretty chaotic. It's been pretty messy. But as much as someone like Palmer doesn't step up today, I'm watching players like Caicedo thrive. And he's one of the best midfielders in the league. Cucurella, outside of Gvardiol, I wouldn't have any left back ahead of him in the league. Like, I think Cucurella's wicked. Reece is currently fit and has been fit for a few games. As much as we didn't see him start today, we're seeing him. Like, there's things that give me more hope than in recent years, which is good. I'm not sat there thrilled at a draw at home to Arsenal today. I didn't think they were great. I think they, like I said, Gusto had to bury his chance. That's the chance of the game. I know Martinelli had one that kind of fell to him and he just hit it straight at Sanchez. I'll give credit for Sanchez for standing still, I suppose. Like, I'm not going to give that much credit for that. They didn't have to do anything else. There was a cross at the end, but like, that was offside. Do you know what I mean? Like, Arsenal's other chances were like offsides and stuff. There weren't really much to do, and the goal was just like a piss poor goal to concede, it felt like. But yeah, look, it could be worse. It could have definitely been worse. If we ended up losing that game, I'd have been gutted. And I'd have been disappointed in some in the attackers in particular. But Neto deserved that today. He was easily our best winger, I thought, in general. Or attacker, rather, in general. He worked hard to help out Cucurella too. And yeah, I thought those three, they were our main guys. But Maresca, he's got something to work on with that midfield. Just like selection in terms of what game we're having. I get going with Lavia Caicedo today, and I don't even disagree with it at all. I just think it's something that we should note because I think it gets ignored a bit. I don't know. I think with Enzo, there seems to be like a real level of criticism and perhaps not the acknowledgement of what he does bring to us. And he does bring a more, let's go forward, let's actually attack, let's create. As much as early in the season people want to get Lavia in, I think since Lavia has come in, Chelsea haven't been creating quite as much. We haven't been forcing the balls forward. Enzo breaks those lines with those passes. He finds Palmer more. You give Palmer more touches, you're going to get more goals. So, as much as defensively it becomes a bit more stretched and it's a bit more basketball-y in that sense, as much as Enzo hasn't got the legs to do what Lavia does, / even the defensive positioning and strictness with himself that Lavia has, it gives us benefits of, there's a balance to be struck there. But the one that is certified on that pitch is Moises Caicedo. He's wicked. What a player. Genuinely, it's kind of mad. Like, Palmer's had some incredible performances already this season. But in terms of like a consistent performer, I think Caicedo has been our kind of best so far. In terms of during this tough period in these big games, Caicedo's been there for every single one and has delivered nigh on faultless performances. Like, near enough. He's a cracking player, and so glad we have him. Genuinely, so glad we have him. What a guy. But yeah, I am relatively happy with that. A draw, it's not the worst. We're third, still above them. Did a job, would have been good to win. One of them ones, but it's a cracker of a goal. And you'd rather draw 1-1 having been losing than draw 1-1 having been winning. It's less of an awful feeling. Yeah, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. It lets YouTube know it's the place to be. It's the Chelsea place to be. It's your place to be. Up the Chels.